Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Buckeye Politics. It's me, your favorite Ohioan. Today, we're going to be looking at the 2022 Minnesota gubernatorial election, a race that should be an easy victory for the Democrats, despite the national environment still probably favoring the Republicans. There's now a few questions in the air after some recent election results, but still, it should be a relatively favorable environment for the Republican Party. And Minnesota is a state that has not voted Republican on the presidential level in a very long time. This is the 1972 presidential map right here. As you can see, Nixon only carried the state by 5 points. If we go to 1976, Jimmy Carter carried the state by 13. In 1980, Jimmy Carter won the state by 4. And even in 1984, when Ronald Reagan swept the entire country, he won every single state except Minnesota, which went to Walter Mondale. In 1988, I voted for Michael Dukakis by 7 points. In 1992, I voted for Clinton by nearly 12. In 1996, I voted for Clinton by more than 16. In 2000, I voted for Al Gore by about 2 points. In 2004, I voted for John Kerry by about 3 points. In 2008, I voted for Obama by about 10. In 2012, I voted for Obama by about 7. In 2016, Trump came very close to winning it, but he was not able to get over the hump, and Hillary Clinton carried the state by about 1.5 points. And then 2020, Biden made huge gains there and won the state by about 7. So Minnesota, as you can see here, has not voted for a Republican since 1972, and even before then, the 1950s. So Minnesota is, for all intents and purposes, a very solidly Democratic-leaning state. So Tim Walz, who is the incumbent Democrat, should have no problem winning re-election, you would think. Yeah, no. And that is because Democrats, or not specifically Democrats, but I guess liberals as a whole, are shooting themselves in the foot. If you see this election, you can see here, yes, Tim Walz is leading in the polls, but you may notice there's two other parties listed on the ballot, and that is the Grassroots LC, which is a legal cannabis party, and the Legal Marijuana Now party. Now, Minnesota is a very, I guess you could say maybe libertarian state when it comes to this issue. They are very pro-weed, especially the more progressive types in the state. And because of that, Democrats also rely on some more conservative voters in like the Iron Range, and for whatever reason, the Democratic Party of Minnesota has not legalized weed, and it's not a huge platform in the state. So Tim Walz, the governor, is not a big proponent of legal weed. That said, a lot of liberals in the state are, and so they founded their own party, which is called the Grassroots Party and the Legal Marijuana Now party. They're basically like the Grassroots Party is basically this party based in Minnesota. They're specifically focused on legalizing weed in Minnesota. Well, the Legal Marijuana Now party is more like the national party. They run people across the United States, did an attempt to make weed legal. Now, whether or not you agree on the legality of weed, whether it should be legal for consumption or not, it's still an issue that a lot of voters do care about. I personally don't really care about it. I know a lot of you probably don't really care either, but it is a huge issue to a lot of voters for whatever reason. And as you can see here, if we go back to the 2020 Senate election, in Minnesota, when the Legal Weed Party first ran, they got almost 6% of the vote. And Tina Smith, who was a pretty popular incumbent Democrat, I mean, she's not like super popular, but she's still very well liked in the state. She didn't even get 50% of the vote. A very popular incumbent Democrat got roughly 6% of Democrats voted for the Legal Weed Party over her. So clearly, the Legal Marijuana Party in Minnesota has a base. They have at least 6% of voters, 190,000 people, who their biggest issue is legal weed. Now, what that says about the modern state of the United States, I'll let you decide that, but that's besides the point. If we look at the polling here for this race, as you can see here, Tim Walz has a very narrow lead. We all know polls tend to be biased for the Democrats, especially this far out, and if you look at the pollsters doing these are just really abysmal pollsters, all of them. I mean, Signal's okay, Survey USA is either hit or miss, and then Change Research is just awful, but let's look at Signal, the Republican pollster. They have Tim Walz at 50% to Scott Jensen's 46%. They really didn't poll other, though, which is interesting. So Scott Jensen, even if you don't add in the Legal Weed Party, is only down by 4. Keep in mind, back in 2020, the Legal Weed Party got 6% of the vote. 6% of Democrats flip over, a mix. This is a neck-and-neck race. And if we look at the Change Research poll, which is a Democrat internal, let's look right here. If you see where my cursor is, General Election Governor. These are the results of the crosstabs of the poll. 7% of voters in this poll said they would vote for one of the candidates from the Legal Weed Party, and that puts Tim Walz at only a 2-point lead over Scott Jensen, the Republican. This race is competitive. I mean, Minnesota, because Democrats love to smoke weed so much, and because apparently it's popular to smoke a weed. Because of that, Republicans may get an easy pickup in the state of Minnesota. As you can see here, obviously there haven't been polls done in a very long time. It's since like mid-July, and with Roe v. Wade and abortion being a pretty important issue in the state of Minnesota, because Minnesota is a more, I guess you could say, moderate suburban state, so that could swing a few voters to really encourage them to vote Democratic. But Scott Jensen's no like far-right hard person on abortion either. He's running a solid campaign. He's focusing on inflation. He is actually spending money to encourage Democrats to vote for the legal weed party. And because of all those factors, I think Minnesota is going to be, it may even be a surprise flip for Republicans, but no matter what, I think it's a pure toss-up as of now. It really just depends on, I want to see a few more pollsters and see how well the legal weed party does and who conducts them. But really, this is a race that no one's talking about because, you know, on the surface it seems like, oh, it's going to be a Democratic victory. But if you look deeper, if you look at past election results, and you look at polls, could be a very competitive race, and it could be an easy pickup for Republicans. And what's ironic about this whole thing is Scott Jensen is not going to legalize weed. He's a Republican. He's a pretty conservative doctor type guy. He's not going to legalize weed. Your best chance would be to vote for Tim Walz because at least he's a Democrat. At least he's open to the possibility. At least he's talked about it. Scott Jensen is is absolutely not going to legalize weed. So the progressives vote for the legal weed party, split the vote, and get Scott Jensen to win, who is not going to legalize weed anyways. They're shooting themselves in the foot, and it's funny to see. So with that, I just want to talk about this election. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe for more.